The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharon Ryan, and I work in the alumni office at William Patterson. I'm here with Gail Kinney, who's also in the institutional advancement, and we're here bringing you our webinar today called Helpful Tips for Writing an Awesome Resume, presented by Jenny Nesenjuk. As you know, the key to getting the job of your dreams is to create an amazing resume. An awesome resume helps you to separate yourself from the pack of hungry applicants who also want your desired position. It also helps you to land an interview, which is critical to getting the job. However, all resumes are not created equal. Some are better than others. The good news is there are things you can do to make sure that your resume outperforms against the competition. In today's webinar, our speaker, Jenny Nesenjuk, she has her master's. She's the assistant director here in the Career Development Center at William Patterson University. Will show you how to create that winning resume that will help you get your foot in the door. Now, before I introduce Jenny, I'd like to go over how the webinar will work. First of all, you should be able to see the presentation, the first slide on your screen right now. It says writing your resume. Second, you'll be able to hear the presentation through your computer's audio system. You can feel free to write questions by typing them in as we go, and we will also answer some at the end, but please feel free to write them. We'll be monitoring the questions as you write them in. Also, any questions that are not answered in today's webinar will be addressed after the webinar is completed. So once again, feel free to type in your questions. Also, you'll get a survey at the end. It'll say if you have any additional questions, put your questions there. So now I'd like to introduce today's topic and speaker. Jenny Nesenjuk has been working in career development and advisement since 2007, with a primary focus on assisting students to gain skills and competencies necessary to be successful and accomplish their goals. Currently, she's an assistant director in the Career Development Center at William Patterson University. She works one-on-one with students, creates and fosters new relationships with employers from a variety of fields, and strives to be an active member of the campus community. Prior to joining the William Patterson family, Jenny was the acting director of career development at Hudson County Community College, where she began the task of building the department from the ground up. Additionally, she was responsible for bringing the major exploration fair to HCCC, working with deans and faculty to provide students with information about academic programs of study offered at the college. In addition to her career development and advisement experience, Jenny has presented at both the National Career Development Association Annual Conference, as well as the Region 2 NACADA Conference, and is an active member of the New Jersey Career Center Consortium. She holds a Master of Arts in Counseling, Student Affairs, and Higher Education from Montclair State University. In today's webinar, Jenny will give you lots of tips on how to create an awesome resume. So now I would like to introduce our presenter, Jenny Nesenjuk.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here and spending your lunchtime with me. I just want to give you a little kind of FYI. In my office today, I have Erica Turan. She is a graduate intern here in our office. She is currently working on her master's degree in counseling and student affairs and higher education. So she's going to be sitting in. You probably won't hear too much from her, but she's here. So I just want to let you know that. So we welcome her as well. Thank you, Sharon. I'm very excited to be doing another webinar. So today we're going to talk a little bit about writing your resume. Like Sharon said, please don't be shy. Ask some questions, and I'll answer those as we go through the presentation and then again at the end. This is an overview. We'll touch on some specific points that you should be including in your resume, and some things that are optional for your resume as well. So the purpose of a resume is that this is your calling card. This is a marketing tool for you as a professional, and it summarizes your skills, your accomplishments, and your experiences. This is also the first snapshot that an employer is going to get of you as a professional. So we want to make sure that it is the best that it can be, and you're really expressing you're really expressing what you've accomplished, what your responsibilities have been, how your previous employers have benefited from having you as an employee, and that's going to translate to any future employer about what they're going to gain and how they're going to benefit from having you as a future employee. Okay. So some components that you'll want to include in your resume, and we're going to go through many of these individually. And again, some of these are optional and some of them are required. We're going to talk about the required ones mostly today, but you'll definitely want to have your name and contact information, an objective or a profile, and that's going to depend on how much experience you have, your educational information, any related experience, which is internships, work experience, volunteer work. Let's see if I can minimize this and get it out of the way. Sorry, guys. Let's see if I can. Nope, I can't. I'm sorry. Related experience, internships, work experience, volunteer work that is directly related to what you are applying for in the field that you wish to be working in. Additional experience is any additional experience, anything that is not related to the field that you're going to be going into. And we include that because we want to show transferable skills. Okay. Any presentations that you've done or publications that you have, any research that you've done and if it applies to your field, any leadership experience that you have with organizations, whether you are a recent grad and you have leadership experience while here at the university, or if it's leadership experience within your community, any volunteer experience, and then any skill sets that you have, whether it be languages, computer skills, lab skills for my science folks out there, or any other technologies. So these are your basic components of a resume. We're going to go through some of these together. There we are. So contact information. So you want to make sure you have a first and last name. Now, if you have a common name like John Smith, I have had a student whose name is John Smith, you may want to throw a middle initial or your middle name in there. We need a mailing address. If you are uncomfortable with your street address, then minimum you need to have your city and state. If you are planning on relocating, you could either leave your mailing address off, or if you have a family member or a friend that lives in the location that you are going to be moving to, you can use their address. A working telephone number and a working email address that you check regularly. So I want to talk about voicemail messages for a second. So the phone number that you put on needs to be a phone number that you check the voicemail of on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be 5 times a day, but it should at least be once a day. And you want to have a professional voicemail message on your phone. So your name, you can have your name, your phone number, please leave a message. So something along the lines of, hi, you've reached Jenny. I can't get to my phone right now. Please leave a message with your name, phone number, and the reason for your call, and I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you and have a great day. Something very standard. Now, if you don't want to put your name on your voicemail message, at least make sure you have your voice on there saying, hi, you've reached 973-720-3291. An employer wants to know that they've reached an actual person, not the standard automated recording that comes with your cell phone or your answering machine, if anybody still has an answering machine. For an email address, we want something professional. I always recommend first name, last name, or first name dot last name, or a first name, middle initial, last name, at whatever your email provider is, Yahoo, Hotmail, Gmail. They're all free. If you don't have a professional email, I highly recommend creating one. When I graduated from grad school 5 years ago, it's been 5 years, 5 years ago, when I was getting ready to apply for jobs, I created a professional email for myself that I used only for my job applications. I still have that email, and I use it for professional correspondence only. Okay. Additionally, you're going to want to put your LinkedIn profile link on if you have one. We recently had an advisory board here in the office where we brought in about 6 employers that we work with to give us some feedback and some suggestions. And one of the things that we heard was that if you have, that it is important for you to have a LinkedIn profile, and once you have that, to include that link on your resume. So I encourage you to include that link in your contact information. Little side note, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, I really recommend waiting until you put your resume together and then creating the LinkedIn profile, because you'll be able to use your resume to help you with that profile. It makes it a little easier. Okay. Okay, so an objective. So we're going to talk about an objective versus a profile. So for my recent grads or my career changers who don't have a lot of experience in the field that you're going to be going into, an objective is going to be the route that you would go. And what this does is it lets the reader know exactly what type of opportunity you're looking for. So this image you see on the screen is a snapshot from our career toolbox. Now the career toolbox can be found on our website, and I'm going to take just a minute and show you where it is. So I'm going to exit out of my presentation. If you go to the William Patterson homepage and you go to Campus Life, career development is right there, first one under services. When you select career development, this is going to bring you to our website. Okay, and the toolbox can be found under students. And you're going to scroll halfway down the page and you'll see career toolbox. When you click on this, it's going to give you a PDF document. This is a guide to job and internship searching, and it includes a portion on, oops, sorry, my email's popping up. There's a portion in here on resumes, cover letters, interviewing, internship and job search, and there is actually a piece in here on LinkedIn as well. So all of the snapshots that you're going to see from the presentation today are out of this toolbox, and you can certainly download this and utilize it. Okay. So we have some examples here for you of targeted objectives. So seeking to contribute skills in research design, data analysis, and report writing in a research position. You can also give some detail about yourself, some description. Focus and detail-oriented finance student or graduate. Professional you can use as well. Seeking an internship, utilizing analytical and project management skills. So you can give some description of yourself, and then you want to be specific about the opportunity. And you want to make sure you're tailoring your objective to each opportunity that you're applying for. So this may change from opportunity to opportunity and application to application. Okay. A profile is for those individuals who have a little bit more experience in your chosen field or who have been in the workplace a little bit longer. This is usually, an objective is usually one sentence. This is usually 3 to 4 sentences, a little bit more like a small paragraph. And it focuses on areas of expertise. It may highlight some accomplishments. It utilizes industry keywords. So we do have some examples here for you. Creative and detail-oriented writer with internship experience within 2 major news organizations. Possesses proven ability to analyze assignments, uncover resources and meet deadlines. Published over 15 articles in local and campus newspapers, bilingual in English and Spanish. So it's really those things that are your I'm going to pat myself on the back and I'm really excited about things that you want to mention in here. Some skill sets, some accomplishments, some areas of expertise. Okay. Are there any questions so far?
Yes, actually, there's a question on this. Would you recommend an objective statement or a profile statement for someone entering a second career that is not closely related to their first? So a job changer, right? Career changer.
So I would say you can do one of 2 things. You can go with a targeted objective. The other thing that you could do is you could do a profile and focus on what we call transferable skills. Those are things that move from any job to any job in any field to any field. So say, for example, you are transitioning from a research position to a sales position. Let's just throw it out there. You can highlight, if you'd like to do a profile, to highlight the fact that you have X number of years of professional experience in the workplace. You can do that, but make sure you're focusing on those transferables, things like time management, leadership, if you have project management, the ability to analyze problems and think critically. So you can do a profile, you just want to make sure that you're looking at those transferable skills and using that in that profile.
Okay.
I always like to say about a resume that this is not set in stone. A resume is extremely easy to adjust. Computers make it that way. So what I always say is we try one thing, and if you don't get the result that you want, or you find that you're not seeing what you'd like to in response to your applications, we try something different.
Okay.
Okay.
Jenny.
Okay, other questions about this so far?
Well, there are a few, there's two basic questions. Would you like to field those for a second?
Sure.
Okay. The first one is this is about when you're finally sending your resume. Is it best to submit it as a Word document or as a PDF? Like when you're doing it on a computer?
Either one is fine. It really just depends. If you find that your Word document, when you open it, if you're sending it to somebody and you find that they're opening it and it's not translating well as a Word document, meaning your spacing has moved around, maybe your resume was 1 page and when somebody opens it as a Word document, it's 2 pages, you've got 3 sentences on page 2. If you find that your formatting is shifting when you're emailing it, do a test, send it to a family member or a friend, or if you have a second email address and a second computer, try out. If you're finding that your formatting is not staying put, then I would save it as a PDF and send it as a PDF. If you're not having any formatting issues when you're emailing it or sending it, then you can leave it as a Word document.
Okay, thank you. And then just one person wrote in, I know you're talking about all the parts of the resume, but this person wants to have some suggestions, maybe you could throw in your discussion, for a resume that takes advantage of close to 20 years experience without the candidate kind of appearing out of the age range. So, maybe some suggestions. Would they do an objective or a profile, and how someone who has a lot of experience but doesn't want to appear out of.
So kind of a general rule of thumb is we go back, and I'm going to talk about this when we get to our experience section. We go back about 10 years. The only way you wouldn't do that is if you've been at the same company for 20 years and you've worked your way up. You can limit what you include. In terms of a profile versus an objective, it's really your choice. It depends if you're changing careers or not. If you have 20 plus years of experience, we're not going to put it all on a resume. And then what we might be able to do is we're going to talk about the education section next. If you're trying not to, age yourself in your resume, you could leave the graduation date off of your education piece.
Okay. And then there's just 2 more people here who said it's the same thing you were just saying. Someone wants to know how to fill large employment gaps if you haven't worked in years. And another person wants to know if you have no previous experience and your current job doesn't relate to the job. And I think you already answered that when you said using volunteer work or.
Okay. So if your current job is not related to what you're going to be applying for, that's okay. You should still put it on. You're just going to focus in your description, and we're going to talk about just writing description for your positions in a few minutes. But you will focus on, again, those transferable skills. Okay. If you have large gaps in your resume, so for example, say you have stayed home and taken care of the kids, stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, or maybe you've been taking care of an ill family member for some years. What you would want to focus on is any independent work that you've done, so any freelance work, any volunteer work. I have in the past interacted with quite a few students, not just here at William Patterson, but in previous jobs where stay-at-home parents, where there are large employment gaps. And then we focus on volunteering at schools, in the community, religious organizations, and what you've done in those volunteer opportunities. The other thing is, if you've just graduated and you feel like you really don't have a lot of experience, there are some things you can highlight from your time here at William Patterson, and we'll talk about some of those optional categories, but they would be things such as academic projects or research, related coursework to your field, and you can add some of those things in.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to our education information. So this is very important. Now, if you're a recent grad, this is going to be at the top of your resume. If you've been out of school for quite a while, and you have related experience to what you're doing, you can put this closer to the bottom, because what we would want to do is highlight your related experience. Okay. So you kind of have a choice on this. You'll see in the sample resume, though, that this is up closer to the top. That's really for our more recent alum. If you've been out 15 years or so, you have 15 years worth of related experience, you're applying for a job in field, you would put this a little bit closer to the bottom. So you want to make sure you're including the name of the institution, where we're located, and when you graduated, so month and year. You can put the name of the college within the university that you graduated from. So here you'll see Casacas College of Business. We want the type of degree you got and the major, and your GPA if it was above a 3.0. Okay. If you have multiple degrees, you put the most recent first and you work backwards, and that's going to apply for any information on your resume under all of your headings. So say you completed your undergraduate degree here at William Patterson and you went on and got a master's degree, say from Montclair State. Montclair State is going to appear first on your resume because it is your most recent degree. William Patterson will appear below it. Okay. If you attended a university but did not complete a degree there or any type of certification or certificate program, anything like that, you would leave that off of the resume. Again, a resume is accomplishment focused, and if you transferred from one school to William Patterson and graduated from here, those credits became William Patterson University credits and went towards your degree from this institution. If we have anybody on the call who attended William Patterson when it was William Patterson College, you will still put William Patterson University on your resume because that's what we are known as now. You would not put William Patterson College.
Guess what, Jenny? That question just came in.
You know what? Every time I do this presentation, I get that question, so I've learned to kind of throw that in. But I do know that we were William Patterson College at one point, but you always put what the institution is known as now.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions about the education piece?
One quick question. If you have a 2-page resume, is it okay to put education on top of page 2? I guess if you've been in the work world. This is for somebody who's been working for several years.
Yes, you can, and that's quite all right. We just want to make sure that if you, for anybody on the line, anybody who's on more than one page of their resume, we want to make sure that the only thing on your resume on page 2 is not your education. So you're really looking to have at least a third of page 2 filled if you're going to keep page 2.
Okay.
We don't want to have 3 or 4 lines on page 2 and the rest on page 1. We really want there to be something substantial, a substantial amount of text on page 1. I mean on page 2, I'm sorry.
May I go back to one quick question?
Sure.
Is that, this one person, remember you said you don't put 20 years of experience in?
Yeah.
What if you started in a field, let's say you started in education and then you moved into the corporate sector and now you want to go back to education. So your education experience is more than 10 years ago, but you want to go back into that field. How would you put that kind of information on your resume?
So we're actually going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about related experience versus your additional experience. I'm moving into that, so all your questions will be answered. Have no fear.
Thank you.
Just one more thing about education. Following your education section, you can, for those recent grads, you can then throw in a heading after education that says related coursework, where you would list 4 to 6 courses that are related to your major and related to the field that you're going into. That will show an employer that you have a knowledge base, even if you don't have any related experience.
Okay. I have a few more education questions, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Okay. Do you put associations with professional organizations under education?
No, you can do a separate heading for that closer to the bottom of your resume, and I'll touch on that a little bit later.
Okay. If the person has graduated from high school, is now attending William Patterson, can they include William Patterson in their education with the year that they plan on graduating?
Yes. So anything on your resume, you can put anything on a resume that you have started or completed. So if you are currently a student, you can put William Patterson. If, for example, you have graduated from William Patterson and in September or January, you'll be starting a master's degree, you cannot put that on until you actually start it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to experience. Okay. So a couple of things to note in terms of experience. So if you have related work experience, so this is anything that is related to your major. So I'm going to take education, for example, because I work with one of the cohorts of students here that I work with is our education majors. So for example, if you're if you've graduated from the College of Education, related experience is going to be student teaching. It's going to be if you've worked at a summer camp with kids, if you tutor, if you were a nanny and you had responsibilities other than just picking up and dropping off from school. So say you help with homework, say you manage a schedule, say you interact with teachers and coaches. Those are all related things, even if it is not inside a classroom, okay? Any other work experience, retail, being an office assistant, working on campus as an RA, those things go under additional experience. Okay, so related experience is anything that is related to the field that you're working in, okay? Now, if you are an accounting major, you graduated from the Katsakis College of Business as an accounting major, and during your time here at William Patterson, you were a receptionist at an accounting firm, you can put that under related experience. Okay, these are just some examples. So when you're listing any type of experience, whether it's related or not, you want to include some specific pieces of information. The first is going to be the name of the company or the organization that you work for, the city and state where they're located, your position title, and the date range that you worked there. Okay, that's your kind of general basic info that you're going to put, that you want to highlight. Next is going to be the key thing. We want to know what you did, and we want this to be accomplishment focused. So what I always tell students and alum and anybody that I work with is we want to know the things that you were excited about. So the things that you went home and told your mother, your brother, your sister, your significant other, your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, your best friend. Okay, that's what I want to know on here. I want to know what you accomplished in this position. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to write these accomplishment statements. Okay, and what you're going to do is the longer you've been in a position, the more you're going to have. Okay, you want to focus on, now if it's experience that's not related to your field, again, you're going to focus on those transferable skills, communication skills, both written and verbal, time management, critical thinking, problem solving, organizational, I said time management already, customer service, project management, the ability to work with a supervisor, the ability to work in teams. All of these things transfer from any job to any job in any field to any field. Okay, a couple of things to keep in mind when you're writing accomplishment statements. You want to start with action verbs. We have a list. Here are your action verbs. And I will send this to Sharon and she can send it out to you. So you want to start with action verbs and you want to make sure that you're writing in the appropriate tense. So if you are currently doing something, you're going to have those bullet pointed statements or accomplishment statements in the present tense. If you've completed something or are no longer working in a position, you're going to be in the past tense. We're going to leave out all personal pronouns. So that's I, my, we, them, their, us, our. We're leaving those out. Now, if you have trouble writing your statements without those, what I recommend is write full sentences. Go back and take the pronouns out and rephrase. Okay? And you want to give as much detail as possible. You'll see on the snapshot image in the middle of your screen, a good bullet point is going to give us very surface level information. Okay, it's going to give basic information. So here's an example of a good one. Provide customer support and product demonstrations for clients. It gives you a basic idea of what this individual is doing, but it doesn't really give you any substance, and you may have lots of questions after you read it. A better point says conducted 10 customer support and product demonstration programs for 20 clients. So here we've thrown in some quantities, and we've given a little bit more detail. Okay, the best point you can write is going to give a lot of detail. Now we do want you to quantify whenever possible, but if you can't, that's okay. We just want lots of details. So the best point you could write is reduced customer complaints by 20% in a 6-month period by conducting 10 customer support and product demonstration programs for 20 clients. So as we've gone through each of these, the amount of detail that this individual gives has gotten greater. So now when we get to that best point, we know specifically what this individual was doing, okay? Again, the longer you've been in an experience, the more points you're going to have. At minimum, you should have 2 points. So if you've been somewhere maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, you're looking at 2 to 3 points. Again, the longer you've been there, the more points you're going to have, okay? Now you would use these accomplishment statements for related experience, additional experience. For my recent grads on the line, if you don't have a lot of work experience, you can put projects, academic projects on here. And for those projects, you would want to include these accomplishment statements as well and give some description about what you did for the project and what the outcome was. Okay, so here's an example of your formatting for any type of experience that you're going to have on your resume. We have the name of the employer, the city, the state, month and year to month and year. Now, if you're currently in a role, this last month and year that you see is going to either say to current or to present because you're still there. And we need a position title. So again, we're going to have some points. So it's not just tasks that you were assigned to do, it's accomplishments, it's things that you've done in the position. Okay, now we also want to make sure, you'll see that last bullet point says you want to make sure to include keywords. So what you're going to do when you are working on your resume is, I always recommend this for a resume and a cover letter, and I don't know that we're going to have enough time to talk about cover letters today. It's not really in my plan, but if you have cover letter questions, I can take those. What you want to do is when you're looking at, when you're looking at your job description of what you're applying for, you want to pick out those keywords, and they are industry specific, either specific words or short phrases. And you want to work those into your resume, okay? Because 2 things, an employer is going to be looking for those. Also, if an employer is using what's called an ATS or applicant tracking system, it's going to increase your chances of your resume making through that tracking system into an actual person. So you want to make sure that you're including those keywords. And those are things that you're going to see over and over again. For example, in higher education, career services, you're going to see the phrase resume review. You may see the phrase, let's see, what else? You may see career coaching or career counseling. You may see group presentations. So those would be keywords or phrases that somebody applying for a position in higher education and career services would want to work into their resume. Okay, so for any teachers out there, classroom management may be something that you see. If you are applying for a sales position, there's definitely going to be something, customer service. You're definitely going to see something in there along the lines of increased sales volume. Okay, so it's things that you're going to see repeated over and over again in your job descriptions of positions that you're looking at. And it's very important to incorporate those keywords into your resume. Are there questions to this point?
There are many questions on experience, and let's try to do a speed round, okay? Ready?
Okay.
First of all, does volunteer work, can that go under experience, and does that get verified by the potential employee?
Yes, it can go under experience. If you have a lot of volunteer experience, you can either put it under experience. You can kind of break it up a couple of different ways. If it's related to the field that you're going into, you can put it under your related experience. You can put it under additional experience. You can make a separate heading for volunteer experience. Whether it's verified depends on the employer.
Okay.
But hold on one second. In terms of things being verified, I'm going to throw this out here because this is a great place. Please do not lie on your resume. Okay. If you have not done something, please don't put it on. And also, you don't want to overly embellish experiences that you've had.
Okay. This person is in the military. Would you put military experience would go under experience, right?
You can either put it under experience or you can create its own heading. You can put military experience, but you do want to give some description of what you did while you were serving, and we thank you for your service.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Internships, do they go under related experience or work experience?
So I never recommend putting the phrase work experience on your resume. If you don't have any related experience, then it's just going to be the word experience. One heading, experience. If your internship is related to the field that you're going into, it can go under related experience. If it's not related, it would go under either just experience or additional experience.
Okay. What about if you had a job that was for a private individual? Should you include that person's name and phone number if it wasn't for a company, like you were an assistant or something?
Nope, you can put, so this happens a lot with my education majors who are nannies. Instead of putting the Smith family, it's private family. So what you could do, if you're a personal, say you're a personal assistant, if it's okay with your employer for you to list their name on your resume, that's fine. I would ask them. If it's not, what you can do is put private client or private individual, and then you can put personal assistant or assistant as your position title.
Okay. What would be the max amount of points that you would put for your, for experience? Bullet
It
point.
kind of depends on how long you've been there. If you've been in the same position for 15 years, I would say probably, and you've been doing the same thing, or I would say probably 8 to 10. But again, it's going to depend on how long you've been there and if you've gotten increased responsibility in your time in that position.
Okay. One more quick question, and this is a different one. For this person says, for my job, I do a lot of different things. Sometimes I put together conferences, sometimes it's business project management. Plus, my company makes up titles for people that don't exist elsewhere. Can this person put a general title on their resume, like senior manager? If they have
Sure. Yes. I guess here's a question for this person. Do you have a job title through the organization, or are you just an employee? I mean, do you have a job title from your place of employment?
it seems like yes, but it might not translate. That's what I'm getting. But let's see if she writes in and says, seems like the job titles in her company don't translate to anything else. And so she wondered, could she just put a generic kind of title in there?
You can. You absolutely can. The only thing that you risk is if somebody calls, I mean, nobody's going to call unless you provide a reference. Um, but you have to be careful because you don't want it to seem like you're lying or making yourself seem like you have a higher position than you do.
Okay.
I would just be careful. To
Okay.
be quite honest with you, it's really more about what your accomplishment statements say than what your position title is.
Oh, okay. This person wrote back. The title is Senior Manager Optimization, which to her seems more like an operations job, which
They just put senior manager.
yes. And this other person wrote in and said a similar scenario. Title is just professional, but they handle finance, accounting, and operations. So, and she's seeking a accounting role, but her title is quote professional.
So
So,
I would put for that specific individual, if it's fine, if it, what was it, finance?
the professional handles finance, accounting, and operations. She's
I would put finance, comma, operations, comma, accounting, professional.
okay.
Yeah.
And one more question is, how would you put experience if you worked for staffing or temp agencies?
Okay. So what you can do is you would list the name of the staffing company as the employer. So let's go back. Name of employer would be the name of the staffing company, where they're located. And then what I would do is leave the date range up there, and your position title could be maybe consultant dash and the name of the company where you consulted, and then your date range. And so say you were somewhere for 2 years or 6 months, 6 months to a year, you would put the most recent first, you'll put your description, then you'll skip down and you'll put consultant and the next company, the previous company, and your date range.
Okay. Thank you.
So your position titles where you would include the organization that you are outsourced to.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do you have any more questions about experience?
Um, there's a lot of questions coming in, so
Okay, I want to make
you
sure that I get to everybody, or as many
we'll
as I
try.
can.
It's okay. You can move forward.
Okay, so while you're reviewing those questions, I just want to talk about I mentioned putting project experience on here for my recent grads. So while I have this screen up, when you are formatting for a project, instead of the name of the employer, the city and state, what you're going to do is you're going to put the name of the project, and then you're going to put WPUNJ, and then you'll have the semester and the year that you did the project, and then you'll have those bullet pointed accomplishment statements. And if you're putting projects on, you want to make sure 2 to 3 projects, no more than 3. And it's not so much what the project was about, it's what you did to complete the project successfully.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so this is a sample resume that we have in the toolbox. Let's see if I can move this out of the way a little bit. There we go. This is a sample resume we have in the toolbox for our alum. You'll see the profile at the top. There's a piece in there where there has some competencies have been listed as well. Then you'll see education at the top. Now what I'm talking about is if you have been out of school for say 15 years, and in those 15 years you have had experience that is all related to the field that you wish to stay in, you could move that education down above the activities. Okay, you may not even have that activities section if you've been out of school for a while. And that activities section could be replaced by a heading for professional organizations if you belong to professional organizations. Okay. But you'll see here where we have the name of the employer, where they're located, that date range, and you'll see the position title and that description. Okay. Leadership experience is an additional, is an optional heading that you can include. So if, say, you are active in your community and you have leadership experience, say you sit on the town school board, or you are active in your as an alum in your sorority or your fraternity, or maybe you're president of your religious place of worship, those things can go under leadership experience, regardless of how long you've been out of school. And that brings me to our additional headings that you can include. So you can put any achievements, honors, and awards that you would like. So you'll see in this particular resume sample, there is a heading for achievements. So if you've been recognized with a scholarship, or maybe you have won an award at your place of employment, you can include those. There's that academic coursework I was talking about for our recent grads, and the academic projects, okay, and leadership and volunteer experience as well.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing you'll
sorry.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Somebody wanted you to repeat what you said about projects and how to format that, and I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's right here.
So it is on the screen. You'll see it. It has the name of the project, okay, and so you'll see it. It does have the name of the project, and it has the semester and the year.
And can a course related to the job being applied for be considered as a project?
I would probably put it under academic coursework and pick a specific project from that course and highlight that project.
Okay.
Okay. You'll see that on both of these resume samples at the bottom, actually, it's not on the alumni one. You'll see on this sample, Colin Court, you'll see there's a skills section at the bottom. This is to highlight technical skills such as computer skills, also languages if you speak another language. If you're in a technical field, maybe it's biology, and you want to highlight some of your lab skills, you can put that there as well. So these are skill sets, specific skill sets that you want to highlight on your resume.
Jenny?
Yes.
Quick formatting question. Someone wants to say they noticed there's really not much margin on that resume. Is that okay?
So I've got some formatting for you right here. You beat me to it. So what you'll see on these resume samples is you'll see, let me flip back a screen here. So this one has a border on it, and that's okay. This one does not. when you're talking about margins, you really want them to be no smaller than 0.5 all the way around and no larger than 1 inch. Okay, a couple of other things to keep in mind: no larger than 12-point font and no smaller than 10-point. The only thing on your resume that could be larger than 12-point is your name. If the rest of the text in your resume is 12-point, then you probably want to go 14 to 16 on the name. If your resume is in 10-point, you're really looking at like 12 to 14-point on the name. Okay, everything should be the same size except your name. We're using only black text color. Now, if you are in a creative field, say graphic design or art, you can get a little creative with this. I can answer those questions specifically kind of one-on-one, but that's really the only field where you have a little bit more creative freedom. We want single spaced, and then use your enter key to skip lines and create white space. You'll see on the resume sample, you'll see we have those line breaks in between the headings. That's what we call white space. We don't want everything squished up against each other. It makes the resume very difficult to read and very text heavy. You'll see down under work experience, we've actually, you'll see under leadership and work experience, we've actually not skipped a line, and it becomes a little bit too compact to read. So we do want to make sure we have white space in there. Okay. And your resume can be more than one page if the content on page 2 is related to the field that you're applying in. So if page 2, if what's taking you onto page 2 is unrelated experience from 10 years ago, we may want to reevaluate that and take it off.
Okay, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
What font do you recommend?
Anything that's easy to read. So it's really up to you, but it does need to be something that's easy to read. And not just easy to read when it's in 12-point, but easy to read if you're going as small as 10-point. So what you may want to do is, and it may be easy for you to read, have somebody else or multiple people take a look at your resume and ask them if they find that the font is easy to read.
And it should stay the same throughout the resume, right?
It should stay the same throughout the resume. What you can do, and you'll see it in the sample, is you can underline things and you can bold things, you can use italic, but you need to be using the same font consistently throughout your resume. And the same thing for any of your other professional documents. If you pick Arial to use for your resume, you need to be using Arial for your cover letter and your reference page as well.
Somebody is asking about templates versus just doing it in a Word document. And then another person is asking about putting some kind of style to it and having a side panel with skills, or maybe using dark blue. And I think this person is more creative.
Okay, so a couple things. No templates. We're staying away from them. They become difficult to edit, and sometimes depending on what the program is that the person reading your resume is using on their computer, it may not translate well. I recommend a blank Word document. Anything that you see in a template, you can do in a blank Word document, meaning if you want to put a border on it, if you wanted to put a line break that has, underlined all the way across the page, there are ways to do that without using a template. So I do not recommend that. It also becomes quite cumbersome when you want to go back and edit it. We've had a lot of experience with students having trouble formatting their resumes because of those templates, so I don't really recommend it. In terms of dark blue text, sure, I usually recommend all black, but if you want to go dark, dark blue, dark green for your headings, so say you want to make your name, your objective education, like all of these underlined headings you see in navy blue, go for it. It may depend on the field that you're going into, though. Something that's a little bit more conservative and traditional, I probably would stay away from it. If it's something that is a little bit more, a little bit more, I don't know how to phrase this, that's a little bit more lax, then you could probably throw some color in. Just be careful how much you're using it. Also, I don't recommend doing a split column. We've had a lot of students recently who have been doing a 2-column resume. Stay away from that. Okay, it becomes difficult to read because As individuals, we read left to right. That's how we're taught to read, left to right, and we read all the way across the page. If you're putting things in 2 columns, it can be displeasing to the eye. It can be confusing to the reader. It just depends who's reading it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. More questions? Questions?
Oh, okay. Now here we go.
Okay.
If you're going in person with your resume, how should it be presented? Should you put it in a folder, binder, laminate it? What do you have there?
Okay. So you always want to make sure when you go and you're taking your resume in person that you're taking, now are we talking about interviewing or submitting?
Well, I would say,
Let's do both. So if you're submitting it, no matter what, it's going to be on resume paper. Okay. Go to Staples, Office Max, wherever you want to go, order it on Amazon, get yourself a box of nice resume paper. Okay. It's either going to be in cream, could be like gray, eggshell. It's not going to be white. It's a little bit nicer quality paper. It's a little bit thicker. It can be a little bit costly, but I promise you it will last you a long time. Okay. If you are submitting your resume in person or taking it, taking it to an interview and maybe just as extra copies, if it's more than 1 page, you want to make sure you're only printing on one side of the paper and you're going to paper clip the pages together, no staples. If you are going on an interview and taking hard copies of your resume, make sure that you take enough extra copies just in case. Some people recommend 3, I usually recommend 5.
great. There's a lot of questions. Okay.
Okay.
If you graduate with a dual degree, how do you enter that? Do you put 2 different items or do you just put 1 entry with both majors?
So let's go back to education. So what you would do is you would put, so say you have 2 degrees from William Patterson, with a dual degree. So it's going to be William Patterson, New Jersey. You'll put Bachelor of Science in Marketing. And then if you also have a Bachelor of Arts in Graphic Design, you could put Bachelor of Arts in Graphic Design underneath.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Here's another education question. If you take classes, this is, I think, a teacher did not take praxis for an additional certification, but you're going to, should you do the same thing? Like, right, certification is expected or put expected date of, or?
If you're working towards a certification and you are in the process of doing it, it would be the most recent entry under your education, and you can put the name of the certification, and then you can put the expected date of completion. And you can even write on there, if you'd like to, expected completion, May 2020.
Okay, here's more. I'm sorry, there's a lot of questions. Okay, here I'm going to have 2 opposite. One person is new, one person has been in the workforce for a while. This person started out 19 years ago as a teacher, was advanced to next age level in a child care center. Each move, her job description changed, but she's been at the same place. So how would she put that on her resume? So her job changed, yeah.
So if you've advanced at an organization through the years, what you can do is when you list your employer, you would put, let's click forward, the name of the employer, city and the state, and you'll leave off the month and year to month and year. You're not going to leave off, you're going to drop it down to the same line that your position title is. So you'll put your most current position, most recent position, and the date range. You'll put your description, then you'll skip a line and you'll put the position title for the position you held before that and the date range for that, and then a description of what you did in that role. And you'll keep going.
Okay.
Backwards.
Great. Okay, another question. When you're submitting your resume via an online automated system and the application asks for salary requirements, or you're asked what you made in a previous job, how do you avoid, being pigeonholed? Is there anything you can do?
If you're asked what you made in a previous job, I would tell the truth. If you're asked what your salary expectations are, what I have typically done in the past, I'll be very honest with you, is I have put salary, because sometimes you're asked to include that in your cover letter. You can put my salary expectations are in line with other professionals working in this field. That leaves you open. Now, if they really want a number, if it's a fill-in box online, I would put a range. And for myself, usually what I do is I do a $10,000 range. I sit down, I know what I need, and then I know kind of what I ideally would like. And I I give what I absolutely have to have as my minimum, what my ideal dream salary would be. I usually do about a $10,000 range. So say I know, so say right now, for example, I make 50,000, but I know that in my next job I want to increase my salary by 5,000. I would make 55 my low number and give a $10,000 range. Hopefully they'll meet you in the middle and you'll end up with 7 to 10,000 over what you're making now.
That works.
The other thing is do your research. If you know individuals who are working at the company that you're applying for in the same type of position, do your research, ask them some questions. The other thing is when you go to, just a quick note on negotiating, when you go to negotiate a salary, know what you're worth and know why you're worth that. Make a list of all the reasons that you're worth what you're asking for, what the organization is going to gain from hiring you and paying you that salary.
Good advice. Okay, more questions. If you graduated from high school, because some people here are students at William Patterson, 2 years ago, can you put accomplishments that you did in high school on your resume? Good job.
It kind of depends on what it is. If you are a current student at William Patterson, what I advise you to do is contact our office and make an appointment with a staff member, and we can work with you specifically on that. Usually once you're in college, we do not recommend putting high school experiences on your resume. However, there are exceptions to that, but if you're a current student, call the office and make an appointment. We're here all summer.
Okay. Here's more questions. If you have 2 unrelated degrees, do you recommend one under the heading of related education and then a separate heading for additional? This person is asking because this person has 2 degrees that are 25 years apart. So should she put them both under education or?
Put them both under education. What you could do is if your more recent degree is related, it is what you are looking to do now. If you want to leave off your degree from 25 years ago, you can. But if you want to include both, I would just put them both under education.
Okay. Here's a good question.
That's a big accomplishment. Two degrees. Right? Wow.
So next question, have you run marathons and other races or won awards like that? Can you put that on your resume as achievements, even if it's not job related?
Those are things that are more hobbies and interests, and we try to stay away from those things on a resume. It depends if it's related to your field. So say, for example, you've run marathons and won awards for that, and you're looking for a job that is related to athletics or personal training or physical education, if you're in education, then that is related and you can put it on. If you're an accountant and you do that in your spare time, I probably would tell you to leave it off. Now, if you've raised money for those races and marathons that you've run, you can put that under your experience. But your bullet pointed statements, accomplishment statements, should focus on the fundraising piece of it.
Okay. Here's a skills question. This person has a soft skills area and a technical skills area for software that they're experienced in. Should they consolidate that or leave them separate? And is there any kind of max number of skills you should put on?
So I'm assuming if you're saying software, well, so here's the thing, you can put technical skills. So I have a lot of computer science students that I work with, and they have a technical skills section where they lay out all their different technical hard skills. And then they have an additional skills section at the bottom of their resume where they focus on, if they speak other languages or things like that. So you can split them up, or you can just incorporate them all under one skills heading. I would say you don't want to, things like the ability to speak in front of large groups, or, if one of your skills is time management. Those are things that you want to try to incorporate into your accomplishment statements rather than listing as a skill. You want to show that skill and how you've used it and how you've been successful with it. That's why you want to incorporate that into a bullet point statement under any of your experiences, instead of just listing it as a skill.
Okay.
And it's going to benefit you much more to include it in your accomplishment statements and how you've been successful with it than it is just to write time management under your skills section. That doesn't tell the employer anything about your time management skills. It's just saying that you have it or you think you have it.
Okay. I think we have a lot of computer science and IT people on because there's a lot of questions coming on with those things. But I think you're just answering them all, so that's good. Um, just a few,
So,
oh,
Sharon, I'm
we have
sorry to
so many
distract
more
you to
questions.
wrap up.
So listen, if you didn't have your question answered, we have them on our spreadsheet. I will give them to Jenny, see if she can have time to answer them. Want to thank Jenny for doing this webinar. It went really fast. Thank you for all your questions. I hope you,
So,
go ahead.
thank you, everybody. You'll see on the screen my contact information. My email address is up there. Please feel free to email me if you would like. For our current students that are on the line, we are open all summer, except on Fridays. Over the summer, we're not open on Fridays. Anybody who just graduated or has graduated in the last year, you are still eligible for in-person services. Anybody who graduated prior to that, please utilize our services via Trailblazer. You can upload your resume for a critique on there. And Trailblazer can be found through our website that I showed you earlier. It was a pleasure speaking with all of you. Thank you for having your lunch with me.
Thank
I hope
you.
you all have a fabulous summer.
And just so you all know, we will send a copy of this presentation. We have been recording the presentation and we will upload it on our YouTube channel. So I will be sending out an email to everybody this afternoon with the link and all that. So any questions you had that you wanted to go back and look at slides, you'll be able to do that. So thank you all for attending, and we will see you at future webinars. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.